Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're sorry we missed you last night, but there was some real, emergency with the computer. And anyway, I'm still in it, but it seems like it's almost solved. And this is the nature of the material world. Material energy, no matter how much sophisticated it seems or how together it is, it's fallible. Everything in this material world is fallible. So let us go back to Goloka Vrindavan with Surup, who used to be Gopakumar. Now he's sitting in the Brajadam and he's talking to his disciple. But before we do, we'll hear the Srimad Bhagavatamrta Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, glorifying the Bhagavatam, which is the basis for all the Rasa Shastras. It goes like this. Sarva Shastra Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwandodita Ditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madguro Man Mahadana, Mannistada Madbhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my God, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu, sadhu tadayin, adini chochata kada, hanamun chakadachin mam, premna rit kantayos buddha. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're getting to the end of the 6th chapter, to the end of Gopakumar's journey, his adventure. And he's sitting with his disciple, the Brahmana from Mathura, and tidying up the loose ends. We're starting with text 379, chapter 6, part 2 of Brhad Bhagavatamrta. He's describing to the Brahmana what his perception is now that he's achieved Goloka Vrindavan. He says, by not seeing in those other devotees a mood like that of the residents of Braja, I may occasionally be disappointed, yet that only makes my love for Krishna shine forth more brightly. And so my disappointment becomes a cause of supreme joy. Now he's talking about when he goes back and forth between Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world and on earth, Gokul. And when he goes in between, sometimes he sees exalted devotees, of other persuasions. That's what he's talking about. Commentary. Because the devotees of all the expansions of Godhead are eternally blissful, Sarup sometimes notices that even outside Braja, even without Krishna's direct company, such devotees are happy, that anyone could think himself happy without being in the mood of Braja disturbs Swarupa occasionally. But that very agitation impels his love for Krishna in Goloka to increase. He can thus remain happy even while passing through Vaikuntha or the material world. Text 80. How much I can say about that supreme reality? How much can I say about that supreme reality? Oh, the world of Goloka, its multitude of residents, honored by all the worlds, always perceive its greatness. So now I have said enough. To all who live with the Lord in that abode, I offer my obeisances. Commentary. Goloka is the ultimate reality, and the essence of that reality is pure love for the lotus feet of Sri Nandanandana. Hearing about and describing the wonderful sports of Krishna in Goloka and in Mathura Gokula on earth are the most worthwhile engagements for anyone. Ultimately, however, one can only say so much, and one must finish by simply offering one's respects to the most fortunate inhabitants of Lord Krishna's abode. By honoring them, one honors their pure love for Krishna, a love which is the highest goal of all endeavors. Thus end the 6th chapter. I wish I knew that. I didn't notice. Could have finished last chapter last time. Thus end the 6th chapter of part 2. Srila Sanatana Goswami's Brhad Bhagavatamrta, entitled Abhishta Labha, the attainment of all desires. Sri Sarup Ki Jai, the Brahmana from Mathura Ki Jai, Eternal Goloka Vrindavan Ki Jai, Krishna and all his eternal associates Ki Jai, Srimati Radharani and all the gopis Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. And here we are, chapter 7, the last chapter of Brhad Bhagavatamrta. It's been quite a journey. Jagat Ananda, the bliss of the worlds. Text 1. Sri Swarup said, My dear Brahmana, now think carefully and decide for yourself what is the highest goal of life and what is the best way to achieve it. Commentary. This 7th chapter describes how the Mathura Brahmana, by the mercy of Sri Sarup, achieved pure love for Krishna, and on the strength of that love received Krishna's special mercy, special favor. Sarup has depicted the most important aspects of the glories of Goloka. Now all that remains is for him to give an explicit answer to the Brahmana's earlier query. From various sources, I have heard of various goals and various methods to achieve them, but still, I cannot definitely decide what goal I should strive for and what I should do to reach it. Brhad Bhagavatamrta 2:198. To test whether the Brahmana disciple has now correctly understood what he has been taught, Sarup asks him to give his own opinion about what should be his sadhya and sadhana, his goal and his means to achieve it. Text 2. Please understand, O best of Mathura Brahmanas, just like me, you have already achieved your goal by the mercy of the divine goddess. Commentary. Sarup's disciple, on the verge of perfection, has yet to realize the glories of Goloka directly, but soon he will. Instead of trying to explain more about those glories, his guru advises that he merely be patient, and soon he will see everything with his own eyes. Text 3. Whatever is left for you to achieve, you have already nearly attained. Please know this. I can see that the Supreme Lord has bestowed upon you his full mercy. Commentary. But visible signs of perfection have not yet appeared in me, the Brahmana might humbly assert. Here, Sarup disagrees. Sri-goloka-mähätmya has already singled the Brahmana out as a recipient of his full mercy. Text 4. Just see, I have indeed told you everything that happened to me and to the Lord and to his devotees, even though these topics are most confidential. Text 5 through 7. The special ecstasies one relishes in the shelter of the personality of Godhead's lotus feet are private. One should feel shy to reveal them, even to one's own mind. And sometimes I entered special states of consciousness in which I could no longer recognize myself or others, nor distinguish one thing from the next. And so there were events I didn't see. Yet Krishna, in your presence, has entered my heart and brought out all these topics, forcing them to come from my mouth. Commentary. A spiritual master can certainly reveal even the most secret knowledge to a faithful, deserving disciple. The Mathura Brahmana, before hearing his guru's personal history, was a raw neophyte, and Sarup was at different times too distracted by ecstasy to perceive clearly what was going on, and so had difficulty recounting some of the events of his spiritual journey. But despite all this, and despite Sarup's reluctance, Krishna forced the whole story from Sarup's mouth. Text 8. I have noted clear signs that you have gained strong faith in these topics, a faith that will soon bestow upon you all its rewards. Commentary. The disposition of another's heart is difficult to read, but an elevated person with clear intelligence can discern from one's gestures where one's faith lies. From the satisfied expressions on the Brahmana's face, Sarup knew this disciple has developed confidence in the truth of my story. In other words, Sarup's mission had achieved success. Once strong faith in the transcendental reality is established, one's spiritual practice very quickly bears fruit. Text 9. Early this morning, Sri Radhika Devi herself came and ordered me. Sarup, a Brahmana from Mathura, who is my devotee, is coming to my grove. Commentary. The Mathura Brahmana considered himself a devotee of Durga, but she is a partial expansion of Sri Radhika, Lord Madan Gopal's eternal consort. Text 10. Go there alone, the first thing today. Enlighten him with good instructions, console him, and help him quickly attain Krishna's grace. Commentary. Had Sarup not awakened the Brahmana's higher intelligence, the Brahmana would not have obtained Sri Krishna's favor. Text 11. On her instruction, I swiftly came here, overjoyed, without even a thought about missing the enjoyment of Krishna's company. Commentary. To carry out his assignment, Sarup left home early in the morning, before Krishna went out to the forest with his friends. Sarup did not mind missing Krishna's company for one day, because he knew that carrying out Sri Radha's order would endear him to Krishna, and this would surely increase the happiness he enjoyed with Krishna. Text 12. Sri Parikshit said, when Sarup saw that the Brahmana, even after spoken to in this way, had not awakened to the treasure of pure love, Sarup put his hand on the Brahmana's head. Text 13. By the mercy of the great soul Sarupa, everything Sarup had experienced became manifest at once in the Brahmana's heart, as if the Brahmana had experienced it himself. 14. Such are the most amazing glories of contact with the great saint. By that contact, this Brahmana suddenly achieved perfection, realizing his eternal identity. Commentary. Usually only the Lord's most qualified devotees attain pure love of God after long endeavor for the Lord's special mercy. How then could this Brahmana have achieved prema so quickly? Only by coming in contact with a powerful saint. The Brahmana's own efforts alone would have been of no avail. His success was possible by the unique glories of Vaishnava association, incomprehensible to material minds. In Srimad Bhagavatam 3.23.55, Sri Devahuti remarks, association to gratify the senses is certainly the path of bondage, but the same type of association performed with a saintly person leads to the path of perfection, even if performed without knowledge. When an ignorant person mixes with other degraded persons, the result is entanglement in material existence, in the enjoyment of food, drink, sex, and so on. But the company of pure souls, even if entered to with the same ignorance, enables one to become nisanga, free in two ways: detached from matter and uplifted to pure love of God. Prema is a form of detachment because it shuns all pursuits other than the attempt to please the personality of Godhead. Therefore it is stated, as stated in the Yoga Vishishta Ramayana, in all circumstances one should approach saintly persons, even if one receives no teachings. Spontaneous dialogue with them imparts valuable lessons. When one approaches persons who have real knowledge, emptiness overflows with fullness. Death becomes immortal nectar, and disasters can seem like good fortune. In Srimad Bhagavatam 3.7.19, Sri Vidura says, by serving the feet of the spiritual master, one develops transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material distresses. Vidura here speaks to his Shiksha Guru, Maitreya Muni. By serving Maitreya, Vidura expects to obtain the service of the Supreme Lord, who is difficult to understand, but whom one can approach by serving his pure devotees. The Supreme Person is Kutastha, which means both unchanging and inconceivable. He is also Kutastha in the sense that he is famous for being offered Anakuta, a mountain of food, while standing on a special peak, that of Govardhan. At the lotus feet of Krishna, the enemy of the demon Madhu, a sincere servant of the Vaishnavas can obtain Rati Rasa, a never-ending festival of prema, from which comes an enjoyment so intense, tivra, that nothing can impede or interrupted. Material existence is full of various miseries, but devotional service at Lord Krishna's lotus feet, padayo, eradicates them all. Vyasanardana. Or if we take padayo to modify vyasanardana, the meaning of the two words together is that which destroys the pain felt by the feet. Krishna's Rasa Lila is mostly a festival of dancing, and dancing means moving the feet. By entering the Rasa dance, one's feet will be relieved of the distress they feel from doing other things. As Kapila tells his mother, Satam prasangam mama virya sangvido bhavanti rit karna rasayana kataha taj joshanat ashabavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishati. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating knowledge of the Lord's activities, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter one is freed, and one's attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Bhagavatam 3:25-25. Here, Lord Kapila mentions three symptoms of the gradual development of prema: firm conviction, shraddha; love for the Lord, rati; and unswerving dedication to his service, bhakti. In the course of devotional advancement, each of these symptoms becomes manifest naturally, without separate endeavor. Lord Kapila does not intend to say that the sequence of development is literally shraddha, then rati, then bhakti. Rather, we should understand that first a new devotee acquires faith, shraddha, then takes up the process of bhakti by hearing, chanting, and serving, and later achieves rati, because bhakti means both the practice of devotional service and the mature stage of spontaneous love. To say that rati, prema, is the fruit of bhakti is correct. With this same concept of bhakti in mind, Sri Dhruva prays to Lord Vishnu, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly, as the waves of a river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service, surely I will be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing, fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. Bhagavatam 4:9-11. Because the devotees of Vishnu serve him constantly, bhaktim mohu prabhahatam. Their hearts are completely pure. Amala shayanam. And for that reason they are exalted souls, mahatam. The association of such Vaishnavas is extremely desirable. One who achieves it need not bother aspiring for the fourth goal of life, liberation. For liberation becomes automatically as a byproduct of pure devotion. Dhruva anticipates that in the company of Vaishnavas, he will drink the nectar of topics about the Supreme Lord, which will intoxicate him and empower him to cross effortlessly the dangerous ocean of samsara. Drunkards are mainly interested in the taste of their liquor. They have only a superficial interest in the secondary effects of alcohol, such as its ability to ease the discomfort of cold weather. In the same way, devotees who have a taste for drinking the nectar of Bhagavad Bhakti consider relishing that elixir forever their principal goal. They accept liberation and other secondary benefits only when such boons do not obstruct that eternal delight. In Srimad Bhagavatam 4:24, 57 and 58, Lord Shiva gives this opinion. If one by chance associates with a devotee, even for a fraction of a moment, one is no longer subject to attraction by the results of karma or jnana. What interest then can he have in benedictions, the benedictions of the demigods, who are subject to the laws of birth and death? My dear Lord, your lotus feet are the cause of all auspicious things, and the destroyer of all the contamination of sin. I therefore beg your Lordship to bless me with the association of your devotees, who are completely purified by worshipping your lotus feet, and who are so merciful upon the conditioned souls. I think that your real benediction will be to allow me to associate with such devotees. Rather than now this is a very, very long purport, the longest purport in the book, and it's all about the glories of the Vaishnavas and their association. Rather than liberation, what to speak of royal power and other kinds of success that ordinary people value? Lord Shiva would prefer even a moment's association with those who keep company with the personality of Godhead. In other words, the company of the Supreme Lord's devotees dances on the heads of all other goals of life. The lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, who killed the demon named Aga, remove all sin. The Lord's fame is the source of all holy tirthas, including the river Ganga and also the river Yamuna, whose bathing ghats and the gopis approach to fetch water. Lord Shiva takes 2 purifying baths, one externally in the Ganga and the other internally in the Yamuna. Similarly, a bath in the Supreme Lord's fame purifies his devotees in 2 ways. Externally, by absolving them from hellish punishment, and internally, by cleansing their hearts of desires for material enjoyment. Persons dedicated to the fame of the Supreme Lord and to his lotus feet are merciful to all creatures. Such devotees always live purely, devoid of lust and other contaminations of the heart, and they have simplicity and all other exemplary qualities. Lord Shiva prays that Lord Vishnu's greatest mercy on him would be simply to let him come in touch with the Supreme Lord's devotees. In the 5th canto, 5:12, 12 and 13, Sri Jad Bharat speaks likewise. My dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, by strictly following the rules and regulations of householder life, by leaving home as a vanaprastha, by accepting sannyas, or by undergoing severe penances in winter, by keeping oneself submerged in water, or in summer, by surrounding oneself by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is revealed only to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. Who are the pure devotees mentioned here? In an assembly of pure devotees, there is no question of discussing material subjects like politics and sociology. In an assembly of pure devotees, there is discussion only of the qualities, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised and worshipped with full attention. In the association of pure devotees, by constantly hearing such topics respectfully, even a person who wants to merge into the existence of the Absolute Truth abandons this idea and gradually becomes attached to the service of Vasudeva. In the verse just before the two quoted here, Jad Bharat identified the Absolute Truth as Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, and as Vasudeva, the darling son of Vasudeva. Now he tells King Rahugana that this Supreme Person is impossible to achieve by any of the usual methods of spiritual advancement, unless, along with those methods, one bathes in the dust from the feet of pure Vaishnavas. It is not enough to follow the prescribed duties of one's varna and ashrama, concentrate one's mind in one pointed attention, in one pointed tapas, execute Vedic sacrifices, distribute food and other charity, work piously as a householder, study the Vedas, or worship water, fire, the other elements of nature, and the presiding deities, Varuna, Agni, and so on. These efforts may help one achieve the favor of Lord Vasudeva only when the sadhaka has also pleased the Lord's devotees. And by satisfying the devotees, one can win the mercy of the Supreme Lord even if one has not performed any of these purifying acts. Lord Krishna is known as Uttama Shloka, he whose spotless fame drives away all ignorance. When one has bathed in the dust of the feet of his devotees, one can enter the company of those devotees and hear from them about Krishna's transcendental qualities, beginning with his incessant kindness toward his devotees. Hearing day after day this pure Krishna Katha, raised as a materialist to the level of an aspirant for liberation, and such an aspirant to the level of sincere interest in devotional service to Krishna. Day after day. 902 videos. Hare Krishna. In the same narration, Rahugana replies to Jad Bharat, "This birth as a human being on earth is the best of all. Even birth among the demigods in the heavenly planets is not as glorious. What is the use of the exalted position of a demigod? In the heavenly planets, due to profuse material comforts, there is no possibility of associating with devotees." Bhagavatam 5:13-21. Human life is the most congenial situation for becoming attracted to Bhagavad Bhakti. Demigod life may be desirable to foolish people, but great saints like Jad Bharat rarely even visit the heavenly planets. The demigods, being too much absorbed in sense gratification, generally do not deserve the company of such pure Vaishnavas. Rather than travel to heaven, saintly Vaishnavas who keep their hearts cleansed by contemplating the glories of Lord Rishikesha usually prefer to wander among the holy places on earth. In the opinion of Sri Prahlad Maharaj, unless persons very much inclined toward materialistic life smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava completely freed from material contamination, such persons cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord in this way can one be freed from material contamination. Bhagavatam 7.5.32. Just before Prahlad made this statement, he expressed concern for the ignorant materialists of this world, who cannot recognize that the best goal for their own self-interest is Lord Vishnu. Such gross materialists must bathe in the foot dust of pure Vaishnavas, who reject all forms of selfish enjoyment and care about nothing but Bhagavad Bhakti. For otherwise the minds of such gross materialists can never shift toward devotional service to the Lord. Without the mercy of great devotees, foolish materialists cannot ascertain spiritual truth, even theoretically, what to speak of reap its tangible fruits. In the words of King Muchukunda, when the material life of a wandering soul has come to an end, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there awakens within him devotion unto you, who are of the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and effects. Bhagavatam 10:51-53. Conditioned souls wander aimlessly in the cycle of birth and death, and only after they have become fed up with this wandering are they allowed to come in touch with pure Vaishnavas. Then, by the company of saintly Vaishnavas, a few of those fortunate souls are not only released from the cycle of birth and death, samsara, but also given something much more precious, pure love for the Supreme Controller of all causes and effects. And if they are not fortunate enough to achieve intimate love for the Supreme Lord, at least they learn how to reverentially serve Him, the ruler of all great demigods and ordinary creatures. These opinions are confirmed by Lord Krishna himself in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11:26-31-34. Just as cold, fear, and darkness are eradicated for one who has approached the sacrificial fire, so dullness, fear, and ignorance are destroyed for one engaged in serving the devotees of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord, peacefully fixed in absolute knowledge, are the ultimate shelter for those who are repeatedly rising and falling within the fearful ocean of material existence, material life. The devotees are just like a strong boat that comes to rescue persons at the point of drowning. Just as food is the life of all creatures, just as I am the ultimate shelter for the distressed, and just as religion is the wealth of those who are passing away from this world, my devotees are the only refuge of persons fearful of falling into a material condition of life. My devotees bestow divine eyes, whereas the sun allows only external sight, and only when risen in the sky, and that only when risen in the sky. I'll read that again. My devotees bestow divine eyes, whereas the sun allows only external sight, and that only when risen in the sky. My devotees are one's real worshipable deities and real family. They are one's own self, and ultimately they are not different from me. Just as by approaching fire, one can get relief from darkness and fear of snakes and wild animals, by approaching pure Vaishnavas, one can get freed from the darkness of materialistic life, free from fear of what will happen in the future, and from forgetfulness of blissful service to the Lord, a forgetfulness that underlies all material ignorance and fear. The prefix upa in the verse beginning yatopa shadimanyasya that is, yata upa shanamanasya, shayamanasya, indicates the idea of approaching from a distance. This implies that one can gain the blessings of Vaishnavas by serving them even in separation. Wow, this is so nectar. Saintly Vaishnavas who understand the absolute truth as he appears in Brajadam can deliver persons entrapped in the cycle of higher and lower births. The Vaishnavas are qualified to give such a priceless gift because they have realized the glories of Krishna's devotional service, which is the confidential essence of the Vedic teachings. Such devotees, peaceful and unagitated, even by the prospect of being liberated, bestow upon fortunate souls various types of spiritual vision, realization of the impersonal and personal features of the Absolute Truth, and discernment of the many different modes of Bhagavad Bhakti. The external sun, in contrast, gives light, but only in a limited way. And we're going to stop here, and I'm going to make a mark where we left off. There you go. Right in the middle of a huge purport. How many pages is it? 20 pages. Minimum. Minimum 20 pages. All about the glories of the Vaishnavas. So this is a very, very special section of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. And following this, we will have what is famous as the Rasayan section, the last section, which summarizes basically the Vedic literatures and the most intimate aspects of the Vedic literatures. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. It's a little after 8 o'clock. Tomorrow morning we're going to have a very special event. Right here in this little room, our little Bhajan Kutir. We're going to have a Diksha, a Vaishnava initiation into the holy name by Bhakta Antoine, who's been serving in Soho Street very nicely and who is an upcoming leader in Krishna consciousness movement. So, Hare Krishna. Are there any comments or reflections or whatever?
So, Braj Vallabha.
Hey Braj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai, glories to Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I like the opening verse of chapter 7. Always the soul has a choice, as Krishna says in Gita to Arjuna. Now decide.
Yes. That's the essence of it, isn't it? Even when we get all the knowledge, like at the end of Gita, Krishna describes everything to Arjuna, and then he says, okay, now you've heard everything, now do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. There's always that autonomous nature that all of us have to choose for ourselves.
From Vraj Vallabha, from Gopakanya Devidasi.
Hare Krishna Gopakanya Devidasi.
Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj and all friends, blessed to have Sri Maharaj Bhag Jai Internet Service.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Rati Manjaya Sajjai Guru Maharaj.
Hey Rati, Hare Krishna.
Sudevi Dasi. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Hearing you read here every day for about 2 years now is growing on me. It has made me more interested in reading and understanding better. Krishna consciousness is so exciting and never boring.
Yes, that's it.
From Vraj Vallabha. Hearing day after day raises the aspirant. The process is clearly outlined right there.
Yes. It's a fact.
This reading really fueled by Bhakti gas tank.
Yeah, it's like one of those carbonators that are, what is it called? Surcharge? No, turbo or whatever it is. It's a turbo. Anyway, how did you get the idea?
Santarup Devidasi. So fortunate we are. Indra Nujadas Bhaktanton Ki Jai. My humble obeisances from Japan. I miss you and congratulations.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Ananda Murti Devidasi. Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today I understand that serving Vaishnava is the most confidential way for attaining the goal. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
From Gopakanya Devidasi. The causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of Krishna, giving us this ISKCON with his transcendental books, temples, prasadam, and his beloved disciples like you, dear Maharaj, who are full-time rendering loving services. How fortunate we are to have your association through these readings. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and your daily readings.
I'm just a nobody. I'm just a peon, just trying to repeat the words of Gopiparanadhana Prabhu and Sanatana Goswami. Hare Krishna. I'll tell you a very little story before I go. When I was reading this part that we just read, and I heard the glories of the dust, the lotus feet of a pure devotee, I recalled when I was going to see Prabhupada just before he left this world. I chanted the whole way on the airplane, and it was a long trip. I had to stop and start and stop and start. About 35 hours or something like that. And the whole way I prayed that I might be able to do some service, some personal service to Prabhupada. Right? Because I came in 72, and by that time the movement had expanded enough that it was very difficult to get Prabhupada's personal association. So I was praying that whole way, 30 hours, japa and this prayer, the whole way, without stopping. So I entered Prabhupada's room, and it was dark because his eyes were very sensitive to the light due to his condition. So it took me a few minutes, for my eyes to adjust to the light. And then I looked at Prabhupada for the first time in that condition, and I was devastated, completely devastated, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get any personal, private, personal service. It was too delicate. Only 2 or 3 devotees were allowed to touch his body. So in the room were Bhakti Churu Maharaj, and he was at the head of the bed doing something with medicine. And at the feet of the bed was Giriraj Swami, my dear friend Giriraj Swami. And he was massaging Prabhupada's lotus feet. And I was stunned. I didn't know what to think, what to speak or say, speechless. And then from the next room, the familiar voice of Tamal Krishna Maharaj came. Churu, Bhakti Churu, and then Bhakti Churu left the room. And then, sure enough, 1-2 minutes later, Giriraj. So Giriraj looked at me, and he went like this. And I looked like this, like I thought somebody must have come in from behind me. And he said, no, you come. And I went over and he said, you have to massage Prabhupada's lotus feet. And so I was able to massage the feet of Prabhupada. And then when they came back, I just took that dust and I just went all over my body like this, all parts of my body. And I know for a fact that because that happened, that I got that special mercy from Prabhupada directly. There was no other explanation for it, that I'm still here, despite all the things that have happened to me and all the things that have happened in the movement. And so I just wanted to tell you that every single word of this purport is precious and should be cherished like the most valuable jewel. And just by hearing it, you get the same benefit. Hearing it and embracing it, relishing it, you get the same benefit. That's a fact. Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same topic. The glories of Goloka Vrindavan and the devotional service of the Lord and the association of pure Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hari Bol.